Autism does not magic away in adulthood. Autistics continue to have needs in many areas as they reach adulthood, ranging housing, employment, leisure, higher education, social opportunities, community engagement, healthcare, quality of life, financial security, food security, daily living skills, quality of life, etc. Age 22 is what is often referred to as the services cliff. This is when there is an almost abrupt end to many of the services that have been provided over the years. To start with, health insurance coverage itself decreases for adults as compared to pediatric coverage. For example, Medicaid will not cover all the drugs, yet most autistics are heavily medicated for some behavior-related reason from their childhood years. And the meds themselves need to be changed every few years as the person will grow tolerant to it. Many of these medications are expensive as well. Medication is often seen as a quick fix in childhood with little thought to the long-term impacts of this extensive use of psychotropic drugs. Long-term medication use comes with its own set of negative side effects which adversely affect health, and many of which may be evident only as the autistic ages into adulthood. There is a lot of diagnostic overshadowing when it comes to autism. What this means is that pretty much any health issue is attributed to the nebulous bucket of, it's all part of autism. Which means nothing more need be done about it. So healthcare issues not addressed early on can be exacerbated in adulthood. Many adults also have health issues due to poor eating habits or sedentary lifestyles. Educational supports that were part of the IDEA protections end at age 22. Many other state services also end at this point. It's like the people who decided this policy thought that autism just vanishes at age 22. As autistics age, so do their parents, who in many cases continue to be their primary caretakers. Aging parents are less capable of supporting adult autistics with high needs, yet ironically do not receive enough state services to help support their adult autistic family member. The reality is that a majority of autistics are going to need varying level of supports for the lifespan. There are many YouTube videos on this issue. All of us need to wake up to something to do each day. So how do adults occupy their day? Adults are no longer covered by IDEA, only the Americans with Disabilities Act. It is hoped that the college track, whether it's 2-year college or 4-year college, leads to employment. There are variable supports which are supposed to provide assistance, such as the Department of Rehabilitation. But DOR is very understaffed and underfunded, so their support too only extends so far. A majority of autistics don't make it to college. After the post-secondary program, the options are adult day programs or staying at home. Programming at adult day programs can range from supervised employment to just babysitting. They also make use of Department of Rehab and other supports where needed. Given the huge number of autistics exiting the special education system each year, there's a shortage of the good day programs. Because they are in such high demand, there are long wait lists, and the better programs are fussy about who can get in. If you think getting into a good university is hard, getting into a good adult day program is even harder. A problem is that adult day programs were designed with traditional disabilities in mind. They are ill-equipped for the behavioral and other challenges of autism. So most are looking for adults with no behavioral issues at all. They want an almost perfect autistic who will need little supervision or what they see as very manageable. The question I have is, if an autistic is perfect, that person would probably not need to be in an adult day program to begin with. I have many peers who are now sitting at home as they cannot find suitable day programs that will take them. It's a very sad situation for them and their families. It just aggravates any behavioral issues if you have nothing to do. There is also less state oversight of adult programming compared to the school systems, so the quality can fluctuate a lot. It's not a good situation. A 2015 longitudinal study by Drexel University pointed out that one purpose of special education is to prepare students for employment after high school. But only 58% of autistics worked in their 20s. Bottom line, special education is not preparing autistics for employment. In fact, autism had the lowest employment rate across disabilities. Nearly 42% of young adults on the autism spectrum never worked for a pay during their early 20s. For those who worked, jobs were lower wage or part-time. As time passed after high school, the percentage of young adults with autism who had ever been employed increased. And then other factors come into play like race, ethnicity, the type of household you came from. Also your conversation ability, which can vary widely in the autistic population. Housing for adults is in a state of crisis all over the U.S. and more so in high-cost areas. There is often no affordable housing within cities and where the autistic can still be close to their families. And for ones that receive state funding supports, there are years-long wait lists. Remember, the housing is for all disabilities and not just autistics. Again, the problem is that housing needs were envisaged for traditional disabilities and not really for the unique and often challenging behaviors and sensory issues of autistics. It is hard to find and keep staff. This is a tough job and they are not well paid. Most can't even afford to live in the Bay Area when they are paid so little. Autistics have a hard time adjusting to the constantly changing support staff. You can just imagine how this plays into any housing option that you put an autistic in. A common form of housing is group homes, where autistics are expected to share a room, which may be hard. Then there is supported living, where a person can live by themselves with support staff, even 24-hour support staff. Usually an agency will provide the staff. In recent years, many agencies and group homes have closed down in high-cost areas as the costs do not match state funding support. Another model that has started up recently is residential communities based on the model of old-age residential communities. But this is affordable only for the rich. An example is Clearwater Ranch in Sonoma County, California. The going rate to buy into it is $350,000 a few years back and rising. It will ensure parents that their adult child will get a room for their lifetime in one of the many shared houses that will be built on the property. There will be some common programming, but the majority of supports still have to be organized by the family. There are also a few other such models. There is a lot to say on this topic, but I will just stop here. Here is a link to a paper on it. My friend, Tyler, he talks about his supported living arrangement and the challenges of finding, training and maintaining staff. According to data from the U.S. Census, even as the overall poverty rate dropped to 14% in the U.S., it rose for disabled people to 28. And only 17% of autistics lived independently, compared to 34% of non-autistics with intellectual disability. As one autistic pointed out in this article on autism and homelessness, I may not be living with parents or in a group home or institution, but sleeping in the park and eating from dumpsters is not exactly what I would call independent living. There are so many issues across the board, from higher education and employment, to necessities like food security. You get the idea.